Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is Quotes 193. The quote today is by Stalin. Okay, and this is a famous quote. The people who cast the votes, meaning the people who actually put in the votes, don't decide the election. The people who count the votes do. So, all right, let's look at the note here. This quote by Stalin is basically talking about fixed elections and voter fraud. So you could be putting in your vote and you think it counts, but if they had already fixed it before time, it really doesn't matter how you vote. Now, I do hope that there is some hope that we can actually get people elected who are supposed to be elected, but obviously there's a lot of irregularities that still go on and have gone on in a number of the past elections. So especially in the US, even though I believe this does happen in quite a few countries. It happens in European countries definitely as well. So let's continue. If enough irregularities or questionable activities are allowed to exist, then it is possible to steal elections. We are aware these activities exist in countries considered banana republics or tyrannical countries. But there was more than enough cheating to question if an election was stolen. Here are common irregularities that I heard of in past elections. There's ballot stuffing, which of course means like maybe one person secretly put a lot of ballots in, maybe either before or after the polling stations closed. Even though this is kind of the old style, I don't think this is the one that's more serious anymore. The fixing of voting machines. Now, this is very serious. It could be done several ways. Sometimes it's even before the first person goes to vote. That machine could be fixed to have like maybe 50,000 in favor of one candidate and a minus 50,000 in the favor of another candidate. So they start off with 100,000 advantage. That's one way it could be done. Also, sometimes we've heard of irregularities where somebody pressed and voted for one candidate, but the voting machine showed that the other one came up. This was especially true in 2008 and 2012. Or I remember a lot of people saying they voted for Romney and Obama's name kept showing up. So this is very serious. This is one that we probably should do away with electronic voting machines, because they could even be hacked into from a distance from the polling place. Hackers could get into them. So really, we I guess at first people thought this was the future and this was advanced, but actually this is among the most dangerous. We should probably get rid of all electronic voting machines and go back to paper trails if we really want to have fair elections, or make sure the elections are what they're supposed to be. Ghost voters. What are ghost voters? Ghost voters, of course, are people who died before election day, but somehow somebody went in and still voted for them. So that's a ghost voter. There's a lot of ghost voters that ended up in many of the past elections. I guess whoever was cheating, they obviously must have looked up all the people that died, took their name, went in and voted. So again, even in the US, there was a lot of this going on, unfortunately, in many of the past, at least 4 or 5 elections, we've seen this happen. Voters showing up and being told they voted already. All right, this is somebody going in, using their name, and voting for them before time. So maybe they checked it off. Okay. Some voters taking advantage and voting in more than one state. Of course, this is illegal. But maybe if you lived in one and worked in another, you went back home and you voted twice. Or nowadays with absentee ballot voting, we've heard of many people doing the absentee one and then going into the day and voting again too. Of course, this does happen. Okay. And any state without requiring picture ID can be rife with voter fraud. Yeah, definitely. If you had the picture ID in all of them, it could limit some of these other problems. It could probably cut down on the ghost voters. It could definitely cut down on people that are voting more than once. Yeah, so it could definitely take care of a lot if we actually had picture IDs. And to be honest, it's kind of ridiculous we don't. We require picture IDs for things that are less serious, like, buying cigarettes and buying alcohol. They require picture ID. So I know I've heard in the past where they say, oh, well, maybe somebody be disenfranchised if they don't have it, but it's kind of ridiculous. Everybody has a picture ID these days. Even a person that doesn't have a driver's license in the U.S. can go to motor vehicles and get a license that's a non-driver's license. They could get this. So really, mostly it comes down to that you only don't have voter ID is if you want to do cheating. That's what it actually seems like. And it's also a little ridiculous too. I mean, we require by law that you have an ID for buying cigarettes and for buying alcohol. Does that mean we're disenfranchising their right to buy cigarettes and alcohol, by having that law? So it doesn't really make that much sense. All right, let's continue. All right, in 2008 and 2012, there were hundreds of counties that had over 100% of voters, or 100% of eligible voters voted during that. So that, by definition, means there absolutely was cheating. So if you have more than 100%, first of all, 100% is impossible because we know not everybody votes. Even if you had above 70, that would be fantastic. But when you have over 100, God knows how many cheated votes you had, how many people voted that were not supposed to vote. So, and again, I don't really care who does it. I don't care if Republicans do this. I don't care if Democrats do this. This should never be allowed on either side. So you could probably, question maybe, some Democrats were probably mad about the 2000 election and think that something happened there. And some Republicans are probably angry about both 2008 and 2012, or especially 2012, where there were a lot of irregularities going on. But these irregularities should never be allowed, and they should be limited. So voter ID is really a must. It should probably be required in every state. And we should probably go back to paper ballots everywhere. We should get rid of voting machines because it's just too easy to fix voting machines. So anyway, I hope it's clear. I hope you got it. Hopefully our future elections, even these midterm elections, there are some questions. I've heard especially in states like California, that more than 100% of the people registered to vote. I don't even understand how they're not being taken off the lists in some states like that. So anyway, let's just hope that there's as little as possible, and this is cut down more, because it's hard to have fair elections without this. Anyway, thank you. I hope it was clear. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.